Nebraska's lost 5 straight games to Minnesota, 6 out of 7 the last time we played these guys was Matt Rhule's first game. Remember that? I don't want to either, but we get a chance to get a little bit of revenge this Friday night. Nebraska's favored. Are they going to win? Let's talk keys to the game, preview, and at the end of the show, I'll give my prediction. Do the good guys come out on top? Let's chat. Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Also, carrikerchronicles.com. Ladies and gentlemen, it's where your Husker sports hopes and dreams will come true. It is just science. And if you believe the good guys, Nebraska is going to score one more point or more, but at least one more point than Minnesota, then smash the like button. And as always, make sure you subscribe and or ring that notification bell. I double checked. Still less than half the people who watch this show have subscribed to the channel. Make sure you subscribe if you're so inclined. Also, if you think you've subscribed, maybe double check just to make sure. They've beaten us 5 times in a row, 6 out of 7. They've also beaten us 4 straight times up in Minneapolis, up in Minnesota. Time to break some streaks. So I mentioned, I think last week, that this is a statement game for Nebraska. Now, there's a difference between an impressive win or a statement win. There's also a difference between a statement win nationally and a statement win within your program and your state. This is the type of win that gets more monkeys off our back. All right, finally went to a bowl game, finally had a winning season, finally beat Wisconsin, finally have a winning record of 1-score games. We're a fourth quarter team. All these stinking things. This is a team that never out-talents us, but just has a knack for scoring one more point or more than us. This is a statement game, potential statement win to the people in this program, to the people in this state, and the people who follow and support this program if we can beat Minnesota. That's why I see this as a statement game and a potential statement win for Nebraska. By the way, Iowa too is on my radar as well. It's funny, I've had people reach out to me. My dad would tell me about this game growing up. 1983, Nebraska beat Minnesota 84-13, and the Minnesota people were like super hot afterwards. For whatever reason, that's been thrown my way a couple times this week as we get ready for this game. If you can't stop the backups, that's on you, by the way. But I digress. Nebraska, depending on where you look, I've seen anywhere from 4-point to 5.5 to 6.5 to 8.5 point favorite. It's all over the place for this game. It's honestly, it's because Nebraska should be an 8 to 9 point favorite. But this team has had our number. We're on the road again. This isn't like the Maryland game where I was like, I'm really, really nervous. Like, I really believe Nebraska should win. But there are some things that are gigantic keys to this game. No, not 6 this week, 3. I'll talk about them towards the middle end of the video. That if they become an impact in this game, they can play a factor. If they don't, Nebraska should win. All right, stay tuned. So I've got written down Nebraska is a 5.5 point favorite because that's the last place I looked. The over-under is 47.5. So they're expecting like a 27-21 type of game. Now, Nebraska has only been listed as an underdog this season one time, and that's Michigan. We've been favored in our 6 other matchups, including Minnesota this Friday, so far this year. I'm so sick of losing to Minnesota. I'm sick of losing to Minnesota and PJ Fleck. Minnesota on the year is 4-2, 2-1 in the Big Ten. Now, they beat Rutgers and Purdue by a combined 10 points at home. They lost to Ohio State and Cal 27-14. Nebraska returns to the road for the second consecutive week in Big Ten play as the Huskers travel to Minneapolis to take on Minnesota on Friday night. It's going to be 7 p.m. Central Time will be the start of the game, and it will be televised on Fox, and the Husker Radio Network will carry it. And a win would give Nebraska its first 6-1 start since winning its first 7 games in 2016. Now, the Huskers had a come-from-behind victory at Maryland. How often have we said that? A come-from-behind fourth quarter victory at Maryland. The win was Nebraska's first win when trailing, entering the fourth quarter since 2022. So not very often. We haven't said it very often. That's okay. All right. Nebraska gained 187 yards in the fourth quarter and had scoring drives of 83 and 81 yards in the fourth quarter as well. And Minnesota, again, enters the game 4-2, 2-1 in the Big Ten. The Gophers also had a fourth quarter rally last week in a 27-20 win over Purdue. Minnesota outscored the Boilermakers 14-0 in the final quarter to pull out the win. Minnesota relies on a strong defense, that is the strength of their team, that allows just over 300 yards per game and has recorded 10 takeaways on the season. They are opportunistic including 3 defensive touchdowns. That's a lot. Minnesota is a perfect 4-0 at home so far this year. All right, Nebraska has a trio of receivers with at least 3 touchdown catches this season, including Isaiah Hunter, who has 4, Dane Key, who has 4, and Ja'Cory Barney, who has 3. This is the first time Nebraska has had 3 wide receivers catch 3 or more touchdowns in a season since 2015. Nebraska is one of 4 schools in the country to have a player ranked in the top 20 nationally in rushing yards per game, Emmett Johnson, and passing yards per game, that being Dylan Raiola. The 3 other schools are Baylor, Rutgers, and USC. Nebraska led Maryland 24-17 at the half, marking the 10th straight game Nebraska has led or been tied at the half dating back to last season. The previous time Nebraska had a streak of 10 consecutive games without trailing at the half was a 12-game streak spanning the 2000 and 2001 football seasons. Did you know that Nebraska's 68-0 win over Akron, I got a few random stats for the show as well, was the most lopsided win we've had since 1986? I was not aware of that. All right, the Huskers scored 10 points in the final 8 minutes to rally and beat Maryland and Minnesota. This is our second road game in 6 days as we take on Minnesota this weekend. All right, Friday night's game in Minneapolis is the first meeting between the schools since Matt Rhule's first game as a Husker head coach in August of 2023. You remember that game? I do. Wish I didn't. We're going to get revenge, I hope. All right, Nebraska won 4 of the first 6 meetings between the schools after joining the Big Ten, but Minnesota has won 6 of the past 7. I already talked about that, to hold on to an 8-5 advantage since 2011. Before Nebraska joined the Big Ten, Minnesota was the most frequent opponent. I did not know that before researching this game. Was the most frequent opponent among Big Ten schools. The Huskers and Gophers met 51 times between 1900 and 1990, including 19 consecutive seasons between 1934 and 1952 and 8 straight years from 1967 to 1974. Nebraska last won back-to-back road games in consecutive weeks in 2006. I referenced this earlier this week. That was my senior season when the Huskers won at Iowa State and Kansas State in mid-October. Nebraska's last won consecutive road games in 2017 with wins at Illinois and Purdue, but both those were separated by a month. The Minnesota matchup marks the second of 3 weekday games for Nebraska. The Huskers conclude the regular season with their traditional Black Friday matchup with Iowa in Lincoln. Did you realize we have 3 games that are not on Saturdays this year? The first game of the year, Thursday, Cincinnati. The game this Friday versus Minnesota is on a Friday, and then the Black Friday game versus Iowa. That's crazy. 25% of our games are not even on a Saturday this year. Before we proceed on, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. As always, check out DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Retaining wall work, concrete work, they're the experts. Nobody does it better. If this is the type of work you want done and or need to have done, go to dpsconstruction.net. If this is the type of work you do, this is the company you want to work for, and Jason Armstrong is the guy you want to be working for as well. He's the owner and operator of DPS Concrete Construction. Again, check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Also, check out Husker Auto Group at huskerautogroup.com. Husker Chevrolet and GMC have aggressive pricing on 2025 model Silverados and Sierras up to $11,000 off of MSRP. APR as low as 2.9% financing with approved credit. See dealer for details. Husker Chevrolet and GMC also has a great selection of 3/4-ton Silverado and Sierra trucks. Husker Chevrolet and GMC is locally owned and operated. Husker Auto Group is conveniently located off North 27th Street and I-80 in North Lincoln. Also available 24/7 at huskerautogroup.com. All right, now Nebraska is playing a weeknight Big Ten game for the 4th consecutive season. Overall, this is Nebraska's 6th Friday night conference game, non-Black Friday games that is, since 2017. It is the Huskers' first ranking in the AP poll. As you know, we're ranked. It is the Huskers' first ranking in the AP poll since being ranked number 22nd after a 3-0 start to the 2024 season. That frickin' Illinois game. They were ranked, we were ranked. Ugh. Anyways, I digress. The future's ahead of us. It always is. This is the first time Nebraska has started 5-1 in consecutive seasons since the 2013 and 2014 campaigns. All right, Nebraska leads the nation in pass yards allowed per game at 118 per contest. You're probably aware of this, but they are 8.3 yards per game better than the number 2 team in the country, which is Oklahoma. Staying on the theme of the passing game, Nebraska is second in the nation offensively in completion percentage. Nebraska is averaging 91 total yards more per game this year than last year so far in this 2025 season. All right, Nebraska is averaging 41 points per game, an improvement of 17.5 points per game over its average of 23.5 points per game in 2024. And they've had 5 players, think about this, 5 players with at least 19 receptions. That's redonkulous. All right, and Isaiah Hunter's starting to come into his own. Sophomore receiver Isaiah Hunter has been Nebraska's big play receiver with 22 catches for 450 yards for an average of 18.9 yards per reception. Hunter had a career best 125 yards on 5 catches at Maryland and is the 3rd different receiver to post a 100 receiving yard day in 2025, joining Ja'Cory Barney and Dane Key. Emmett Johnson starting to emerge and come into his own as well. At Maryland, he ran the ball 21 times for a career-high 176 yards and a career-long run, that 50-yard run, where he was just a monster. Man, that was a big run in that game for us. All right, he ranks 1st in the Big Ten Conference in yards from scrimmage per game and averaging 130 yards, total yards from scrimmage per game. Kenneth Williams, my man's on Scully now. Congratulations, my man. 85-yard kickoff return he had. Is the longest kickoff return by a Husker since 2017. For the season, Nebraska is averaging 28.8 yards per return, which ranked 1st in the Big Ten. Nebraska continued to make progress in the turnover margin. In Matt Rhule's first season in 2023, Nebraska was minus 17. Good Lord, in turnover margin before improving to minus 2 in 2024. How can you improve by 15 less turnovers in the turnover margin and still be minus 2? We're going in the right direction, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Nebraska is plus 3 in the turnover margin right now. We were plus 6 last week. Now we're plus 3, still in the plus column, though. Still found a way to win last week. Nebraska has not held a positive turnover margin for a season since 2016. Now, this offensive line, I've talked several times about how experienced they are, but I haven't dove into it a whole lot. So let's dive into it just a smidge. Entering the season, Nebraska's offensive line had combined to play in 227 career games. 7 Husker offensive linemen, all right, have started, this was entering the season, have started 14 games or more in their careers, all at Power 4 schools. Now, if we go through these 7 offensive linemen, there's an offensive lineman who is now, at this point in the season, started 41 career games, another one 23, 21, 15, 12, 15, and 35 career games. That is now an updated current total of 162 career starts just between those 7 guys alone. Let's look at the Gophers. They used to be called the Golden Gophers. Kind of like Colorado was the Golden Buffalo. I agree. It sounds much better now that they got rid of it. All right, the Gophers come in averaging 340.8 yards per game with 228.5 yards per game through the air and 112.3 yards per game on the ground. Drake Lindsey, their quarterback, has thrown for 9 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Defensively, Minnesota is allowing 308.3 yards per game and giving up an average of 21.2 points per game. Now, you just look at their offense. Their offense is not great. They are 16th. There's 18 teams in the Big Ten. They are 16th in the Big Ten when it comes to rushing offense. 11th, which is their best statistical team offensive category. 11th in the Big Ten in passing offense. 15th in total offense. 14th in scoring offense. In the nation, their rush offense is 114th in the country, pass offense 68th in the country, total offense 104th in the country, scoring offense 76th in the country. Their total defense, not bad, 8th in the Big Ten, 27th in the country. Now, our rushing defense is second to last in the Big Ten, but it's up to 81st in the country. It was 101st not long ago. Total defense, we're 5th in the Big Ten, 14th overall in the country. Third down offense, they struggle. Minnesota does. They're 81st in the country on third down offense. When it comes to third down defense, we are 8th in the country, top 10 in the nation. Red zone offense. This is an area both teams need to improve. We are 72nd in the country in red zone offense. They are 77th. And I kind of mentioned this before, but kickoff returns, we're number 1 in the Big Ten. They're number 1 in the Big Ten in kickoff defense, kickoff coverage units. Penalty yards, they don't beat themselves. They're 3rd in the Big Ten and 5th in the country when it comes to penalties. They do not beat themselves. And turnover margin, they're 4th in the Big Ten. We dropped from 2nd in the Big Ten to 10th after the Maryland game. Again, we still found a way to win that. So here's a couple of random stats. I was just kind of looking through the last time certain things happened in Nebraska. We've never had anybody complete 40 or more completions in a game. I remember when Tanner Lee threw for 400 passing yards. Tanner Lee threw for 400 passing yards in a game. Joe Gans, ooh-wee, that Kansas State game in 07, after I was gone, he threw for 510 passing yards. All right, the last time we had a passing touchdown by a non-quarterback was DeMornay Pearsonell at Northwestern, October 18, 2014. The last time we had a receiver get 10 receptions, we spread the ball around so well this year. I'd be surprised if we have a guy get 10 receptions this year. They're capable. We just spread the ball everywhere. But the last time we had a guy get 10 receptions in a game was Trey Palmer. He had 10 versus Oklahoma, September 17th, 2022. And this was mostly because it was Minnesota. That's why I'm going to mention this. The last time we had 3 100-yard rushers in a game was against Minnesota, October 20th, 2018. Devino Zigbo, Adrian Martinez, and Maurice Washington. Wonder what he's up to now. All right, keys to the game. I got 3. Number 1. By far and away, number 1. If I was to have 4 keys, this would be 1 and 2. I didn't do that this week like I did protecting Dylan last week. Number 1, avoid distractions. Matt Rhule to Penn State. Will he stay? Will he go? What's going to happen? Now, Matt Rhule wasn't overly definitive in his press conference. I'm willing to bet he's been pretty definitive with the team, but I'm kind of guessing. I'm speculating. Avoid distractions and stay focused. Minnesota's one of the bottom 4 teams offensively in yards per game, rush yards per game, near the bottom in the Big Ten in points per game, and all the way up to a whopping 11th in the Big Ten with passing offense per game. I already discussed these things. This is not a team that should light up the scoreboard against us. Stay focused, don't get distracted, and don't worry about any stupid curses either. Before we move on with our keys to the game, I want to give a shout out to Allen Capital Group. Check them out at allencapgroup.com, ALLENCAP group.com. They have offices located in Grand Island, Ogallala, Scottsbluff, and Omaha. They do a phenomenal job. They know what they're doing. They genuinely care about their clients. They have high integrity. They have your best interests at heart. So they have taken care of my family's finances for over a decade. Nothing will put your mind at ease like knowing your finances are in good hands, because nothing is more stressful than when your finances are out of whack. All right, Allen Capital Group. Check them out at allencapgroup.com. Next level solutions for next level needs. All right, second key to the game. We absolutely have the advantage when it comes to the roster, talent rankings, etc. in this. It's not like night and day or anything, but we absolutely have the advantage. So what swings a game like this? Turnovers and penalties. Minnesota has out-disciplined us for years. We lost the turnover battle 3-0 to Maryland, and we still won the game. I wouldn't count on doing that too often, though. Luckily, Maryland also had 8 penalties and 100 penalty yards, more than twice as many as Nebraska had, because we play more disciplined now. If we win the turnover and penalty battle, or at worst draw even, I like our chances to win this game. Last but certainly not least, the trenches. Our D-line played better and has gotten better and improved since the bye week, especially since Michigan State. Especially the Michigan State game specifically. There were times Maryland ran the ball better against us than I would have liked, but we dominated Michigan State's O-line. The offensive line played their best game of the last month versus Maryland. Can we continue to do it consistently going forward? This is really the only spot where Maryland could have a bit of an edge. Not definitively, but maybe potentially. All right, before I give my actual prediction, here are some things you find folks might find interesting. When you talk about not liking another team, check this out. Toledo and Bowling Green played last weekend. I saw this screen grab last week. This is a reminder that Toledo has a rocket aimed directly at the 50-yard line of Bowling Green State University Stadium. And it's been aimed there for decades, by the way. This is now 0-22. A couple of these first ones are from last week. The Browns haven't won a regular season game in Pittsburgh since 2003. 22 straight losses. I know the graphic says 21 again. They played again this past weekend and they lost. All right, Nick Saban criticizes multiple Big Ten teams while claiming the SEC is deeper. And I quote, I don't think the Big Ten is really that deep. It's not like the SEC where you get 8 or 9 teams that can beat you. I mean, Penn State, tell me the good teams, maybe Michigan, and he goes on. Just for kicks and grins, Nick Saban went 23-16-1 in the conference play as a Big Ten coach. He didn't win until he joined an easier league. Those are not my words. Those are the person who put it out. It's funny how the SEC just bragged about winning national championship after national championship after national championship. And now that they don't win national championships as often, it's about the depth of the league. Funny how that works. I should mention this. Emmett Johnson, number 2 in the Big Ten when it comes to rushing yards. He's number 1 in total yards per game, number 2 in rushing yards per game, as you see on the screen in front of you. Okay. I thought this was awesome. Heinrich Haarberg on why he stayed at Nebraska. And I quote, "I truly believe in what we're building here, and I want to be a part of that and be able to look back in 40 years and hopefully play a small part in a big resurgence." End quote. Love that dude. All right, this was a comment that I saw, and I screen grabbed it. As Caleb Henry stated, the Huskers have not been ranked in October since 2016, and Husker fans are already whining. Wow, that's what that person had to say. I just thought it was interesting. You never know how things are going to go. Who would have thought Penn State would be doing this now? UCLA would be doing this now. So this was put out a while back. Indiana is currently the most overrated football team in the country. They're going to lose by 20 plus points to Oregon today. This was last week. The game will be over at halftime. Indiana, here's the next thing. Indiana is 1-72 all-time versus AP top 5 teams. They've dropped 46 straight. Tied with Wake Forest for the longest top 5 losing streak ever. Indiana mollywopped Oregon. You know Oregon had 64 total yards in the second half? Do you also know that Indiana had 3 scoring drives in the second half that were all longer than 64 yards just in those 3 individual scoring drives alone? Indiana beats Oregon 30-20, their first AP top road win in Indiana school football history. Just a reminder, no football program in the entire country, in all of FBS, not one, not Kent State, not FIU, not anybody, has more total losses in the history of their program than Indiana. You never know what can happen. Indiana is now number 3 in the country. Their number 3 ranking in the Week 8 AP poll is the highest in program history. All right, here are the remaining undefeated teams in the country. Shout out to Texas Tech. I guess if you got a billionaire donor, it helps. Indiana's obviously on here. Navy, Miami, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Memphis, Georgia Tech, Texas A&M, BYU, and UNLV. I should mention, I can't help but wonder if Elijah Pritchett and Gunnar Gatula are getting to play a little bit more at tackle. And I know Turner Corcoran came in for Elijah at a certain point versus the Maryland game. We'll see who starts this Friday because they're going to be here next year. Turner and Teddy Prohaska may actually be ahead of them, but Matt Rhule's building towards the future, and I can't help but wonder, again, Dylan, Emmett, Ja'Cory, Isaiah, Luke Lindenmeyer, the entire running back room, everybody on the 3 deep on the D-line outside of Elijah Judy is all coming back next year. Justin Evans is coming back. The guards are gone. But the 2 tackles that'll be back next year are Pritchett and Corcoran. I can't help but wonder if that's being factored in to them getting more reps and more starts this year. And if it makes us better for the future and it's not a gigantic difference now, I get it. All right, he's not wrong. Former NFL running back Danny Woodhead sounds off on the state of Nebraska high school football, and I quote, "Sad deal with Nebraska high school football is. College and NFL, there will be adversity and competition, allowing the Wild Wild West in high school doesn't prepare them for college football at all." End quote. Oh, by the way, Muhammad Berry responded in the comments, "I agree. For God's sake, we don't even have spring ball." I love to embarrass my family. Here's my kids. This was the first time we took all 8 of us to a home game, at least recently. This was before the UTEP game. The next one we're going to go to is going to be the Iowa game. Quite spread out. But there's the whole family. We're raising them right. They're throwing bones and wearing red. Also, my wife. All right. Keep U Sports fun. She coaches an 8U soccer team. They won the championship of the tournament, but they all dressed up as Dalmatians, and she dressed up as Cruella DeVille. The hottest Cruella DeVille I've ever seen. Here's a couple of others. There's only 6 Big Ten teams with 1 loss or less. Nebraska's one of them. And Big Ten power rankings. We're ahead of Michigan. So we can't whine too much about being behind Cincinnati in the AP poll? Yes, we can. And a former Husker put this out on Facebook that I saw. Rhule to Penn State. Here's what we know. Rhule has publicly reaffirmed his commitment to Nebraska. He does, however, have deep love for Penn State roots. Sportsbook have him listed among the favorites to replace James Franklin. His Nebraska contract runs through 2030, and Penn State will face a multi-million-dollar buyout. Current odds that Rhule leaves Nebraska for Penn State minus 33%. And all right, ladies and gentlemen, here's my official prediction for the game. The good guys, 31. Flex boys, 24. I will never forget a Big Ten Media Days a couple years ago in Indianapolis. He's walking by. I'm sitting there. He's got his fancy suit on. I notice he's wearing dress shoes with no socks. First of all, why? Second of all, how is that comfortable? Third of all, how do you not get blisters? I'm more jealous than I am confused, and I'm fairly confused. All right, ladies and gentlemen, these fan questions are brought to you by our good friends at Husker Auto Group. Check them out at huskerautogroup.com. Also, you can follow me on the social medias, X, TikTok, and Facebook. Let me know your answer to these questions in the comments below. Number 1, what's your single biggest key to Nebraska beating Minnesota? Number 2, what is your official and/or final score prediction? Number 3, it's a Friday game. It's a short week. We went halfway across the country to Maryland. Then we come back home and we go up to Minnesota on a short week. Do you care? Should this affect the game at all or not? Hey, no excuses. Find a way. Go, Big Red Nose. Remember, go Spurs.